try this again. Hi, everybody.
We're back.
We are back. I'm Catherine.
And I'm John.
And we are here to talk to you guys about creating conscious relationships with yourself and with the people in your life that you love or that you're trying to build a better relationship with. And tonight we're here to talk about expectations.
Yes, and before we were cut off, we expected that our network was sound and secure and good. Set us up. So, yeah, where did we leave off? You were talking about
I was saying how sometimes I have triggers around expectations.
And we're going to have expectations no matter what. It's just having the awareness of, okay, this is my expectation, right? And I gave the analogy when we were having our conversation about, I like the San Francisco 49ers, and they have a great team. Last year, thought they were going to do great, and they did not. So that threw my expectations right up. So, but then I get angry, right? Because my team didn't do well, and why is it? Well, it's not the team's fault. The team just couldn't put it together or whatever. It's not like they're attacking me. It's not like it's a
vendetta against you personally.
Yeah, it's not a personal thing.
Yeah.
It is me creating this expectation that they're going to do this well, so whatever. So then I can cheer for them and be happy and whatever. So in that sense, it is me that's setting myself up for that disappointment or that whatever.
Yeah. And that's essentially what we're talking about when we're talking about having expectations in relationships, and where the risk of it becomes is that we can have a preset idea of how a person is supposed to show up in a relationship, or we can have a preset idea as to what their response to us is supposed to be, how they're supposed to celebrate us on different holidays. If we share something vulnerable, we might have an expectation as to how they're supposed to respond to us or to receive it. Or if we get angry, then we might have expectations as to how they're supposed to act after we're angry. And it really becomes such a narrow path of connection, because then you've got someone on puppet strings that has to act in a specific way in order for you to feel happy within the relationship. But if you can kind of go, where is this expectation coming from? If you're getting disappointed, or you're getting angry, or you're getting upset about something that your partner is or is not doing, then it's an opportunity to go, where is this expectation coming from? Or what am I expecting in this moment? And there's nothing wrong with what you're expecting, but there's a reason that you have that expectation, and to get curious about it, to ask yourself, why do I believe it needs to look this way? And can I let go of that enough to meet this person where they're at?
Yeah, and you throw in the different, like I said, these things come from your life, how your life, your past experiences, your relations with other people and whatnot. And it's very tricky, because then you throw the ego in there as well, because the ego the ego's got to have its place and be there. So you start, if you have these expectations and you feel hurt, or you're starting to get mad at somebody, look at yourself and go, oh, maybe they didn't know this, or maybe, they're not seeing things the same way. Like we talked a couple weeks ago about, the glass jar, and about what that glass jar looks like and what the perspective of that is. So, everybody's got a different perspective of the situations. Try to hold yourself accountable to your expectations, right? So try not to overthink things of, I guess, to the fact of, I expect that this jar is going to always be this way. This is the way it's got to be. And because I'm this way, this is how it has to be. Because at that point, you will get angry, because it won't be that way. It won't always be the same.
Yeah. And it's an opportunity for you to get curious about yourself. And I know we've talked about this many times as we've been doing these conversations, that allowing yourself to get curious about yourself. Understand, where does that expectation come from? What are the belief systems that you're holding on to that say this is the only way that it can be, or this is the way it has to be, or should look? When you get curious about yourself, when you start to understand, why is this so important to me? Why do I think it needs to look like this? Then you can actually start to detach yourself from whatever those belief systems are, from whatever the triggers are, from even what the expectations are, right? Then you start to practice non-attachment to what is showing up in your life, which can make things a little bit easier, especially when you're trying to, I know there's a lot of people right now talking about, like, they just want to feel peace. So they just want to, not be angry all the time. They want to have calm. They want to have the good life or whatever. And yeah, we can wait for the external stuff to change so that we can finally be at peace, or so that we can finally feel calm. But ultimately, it comes from within, right? If you're always waiting for the external thing to change, it might never, and you might be pissed off for the rest of your life. But if you give yourself that opportunity to go, okay, so what in me is actually reacting to this? Then you have an opportunity to shift it.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. It is having that awareness when you start feeling that of, whatever the situation is. I use the football analogy. You're getting mad about whatever. Say it again. Yeah, your football games. Well, here you have this expectation, right? Why did you have this expectation? Why are you getting mad? And I would encourage everybody to use this in all of the situations that you're in. It does get tricky because with people, and multiple people, or in families or whatever, in groups, there's different dynamics. Yeah. Remember, there's your perspective, my perspective, their perspective, your perspective. And now you have all the expectations of all those perspectives to go with it, and how those all combine and play off of each other.
Yeah. And then on top of that, you've got experiences, right? Real life lived experiences that our nervous systems, our brains, everything has just documented this information. And so we might go, I'm going to use your football analogy again, but we might go, well, the last time my team had these stats, this is how they performed throughout the season. So now we've got the exact same stats with different players, so it should be the exact same game. But no, now you've got all these different players with all these different life experiences, maybe the same skills, maybe the same stats, but things can't look exactly the same. And so that's where those expectations start to play in again, right? We start to have this kind of false idea of how things are supposed to be. And then we get met with reality. And it's that getting met with reality of how life is actually showing up, or how the players are showing up in the game, or how someone's showing up in the relationship. That's where we start to feel that disappointment. That's a hard one.
Yeah, and like I said, it is very tricky because you have those ego pieces that show up as well. Well, how many people have said, no, this is not right. It's just not right. This is not the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah. And to ask why.
Well, that's your expectation that it's not right. It's not supposed to be this way, right? That is your expectation. So why do you have this expectation? And then start digging that, take that thread and start looking, where did that come from? And then start realizing, take a look around and start realizing, how many expectations have you put on other people? You expect everybody to show up a certain way. I guarantee it, we all do. But that kind of sets us up for failure as well, right? Because now, one day this person shows up and they're angry. Well, why are you angry? We had this expectation that they're happy. Well, everybody has the right to be upset or angry or whatever. Yeah. Usually from expectations.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting too, because we can place a lot of expectations on people and have this idea of, this is how my kids should act, this is how my partner should act, this is how my parents should act, or this is how mothers are supposed to be, or whatever it might be. But if we have someone who places expectations onto us as to who we're supposed to be all the time, we tend to get angry about that. Yeah. Right? We don't want expectations on us, so why would we assume that anybody else might want expectations on them? And this can go beyond people as well. We can have expectations on, I'm getting this job. I've done everything. I've got the perfect resume and whatever. I'm getting this job.
Well, it reminds me of yesterday. We were having a very similar conversation, and we were talking about going tubing. Our expectation was the weather was going to be great. It was supposed to be sunny. And guess what? That wasn't the case. We had an expectation that the weather was going to fall under our control and it was going to be nice. And it just didn't play out that way. Yeah. Everything was fine. I mean, these are little expectations. You move on, and you create a different plan. But some of those things are bigger expectations, like you were saying, right?
Yeah. And like our own personal experience with a really big expectation that I held was a few years ago when we were supposed to walk the Camino.
Yes.
And I had this expectation of, we are walking the Camino, it's us three, we're going all the way to Santiago. And he even said to me, maybe this isn't going to happen this year, because we just weren't sure if it was going to happen. And I was like, no, I already said this is going to happen. This is how it's going to look. This is like, I've been planning this. I've been planning this. And then we went, and our son experienced seizures, and we ended up coming home, and my expectations went from being like way up here, and I fell really, really far down and had to meet all the parts of me that had built an expectation on this trip and this idea of the trip, and letting go of all of the belief systems, letting go of all of the limiting ideas that I was holding on to, and all of the stories that were kind of feeding into what the emotions and everything were that were coming up for me. Because when you have an expectation and it's not met, and you have to fall down to kind of ground zero, you have no idea how hard you're going to fall.
Yeah, and another thing that we were talking about is the more you put into that expectation, the more you feed it, you gas it, however you want to juice it, however you want to, whatever terminology, the more you put into that, and if that expectation is not met, it is, as witnessed, it crumbles, it crashes people,
yeah.
It takes your wind out of your sails, out of your lungs, everything.
Yeah. And really, when that happened, I mean, I was in resistance. I was in so much resistance of that whole experience. Very angry, very disappointed, very like, what the hell is kind of happening here with this expectation? And then I had to get curious about it and go, okay, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling right now? Why am I feeling all these big feelings? And it really turned out it had nothing to actually do with the Camino. It had to do with what life had been prior to that, and everything that I had just kind of held inside of me, and then that gave it the opportunity to finally be released. Which is kind of the interesting thing about expectations, is that sometimes we will place, say, an expectation on our husband that maybe he's going to, I don't know, plan a perfect date night. And then the date night comes and nothing's planned, and then you're disappointed and you're angry and whatever. You're like, oh, you were supposed to do this thing, or whatever it might be. And then we get angry, right? Sometimes we might place that expectation onto that person for an opportunity for us to get angry at them when we know that they're not going to follow through, right? So it's almost like a false expectation, but at least now I can get this anger out of me, or I can get this sadness out of me, or this disappointment. And so you have to be very kind of careful with, know who your person is, right? Like, if they're just not capable of, I don't know, cooking a 5-star dinner, you are. I'm just using it as an example. But if you were a really bad chef or something, you wouldn't place an expectation on someone that you have to cook me a meal. Yeah. You know? So you have to know your people. And
yeah, it's interesting because know your people, but know your own expectations, right? So if you go and say, hey, I want you to plan a date night, and you're not giving specific instructions or this is what I want, this is what I want to do, I want flowers, and I want a carriage ride, and I want dancing, and I want da-da-da-da-da, and you go out and you have A&W.
Yeah. That was our first date.
Then, the expectation, you shouldn't be upset, because although you asked for a date, that you had the date, and the A&W piece is just, yes, we've had better dates. It was just
yes.
Where we were at that time.
Yeah.
But if the person takes you out on that date, that still meets your expectation, not your perspective of what that expectation is, because you didn't communicate that.
Yeah.
So many times I've heard people be like, oh, I was upset about, I didn't get this, or somebody didn't do certain things. Well, they did something else, but they still did something. Yeah. So you had an expectation of what this looked like, and it didn't look like what you thought. So you, and I don't want to.
You're not pointing the finger,
I don't
although
wanna
it
say
very
we-
pointedly looks like you're
Yes,
pointing the
we
finger at
are
someone.
setting our own selves up
Yes.
for disappointment and to be angry.
Yeah, and again, it's an opportunity to get curious. Like, if you do have this kind of idea of, the date needs to look like flowers and a carriage ride, and I don't remember everything else that you said, but, this big, lavish kind of date, you have to kind of ask yourself, what is it about that makes me think that that's a proper date? What is it about it that tells me that that's more loving than just going to a coffee shop or going to a local fast food joint or whatever it might be, because ultimately a date is about connection, right? It's not about what you're doing or who you're seeing or where you're going or anything like that. It's about an opportunity to connect. So it really comes back down to understanding yourself. Why do I have this expectation? Why am I feeling disappointed? Because to me, it's like if you have an expectation, there's automatic disappointment. Like the two are very much tied with each other.
See, and that's part of the reason I think it's good to do this show is at one point, like you were saying, I was about the Camino, this could happen. I was very much in a place of trying to have that zero expectation, right?
You were good.
I
was not.
don't get excited until I get there. There's always, no, until this happens, there's no point because just this is my perspective. This is how I've gone through life but now I'm more of the understanding that you can't have zero expectation. You just have to understand that expectation. And you have to understand your community. You have to understand your relationships and how your expectation plays off of theirs.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, or how they all come together. It's not just a linear yes, no.
And to me, when we're talking about like not having any, like the whole zero expectation. One of the quotes that I absolutely love by one of my mentors, Derek Rydell, goes along the lines of, and I feel like I'm not going to get this quite right, but essentially live your life as though you're the only one planning it. Or no, plan your life as though you're the one creating it, but live your life as though God is the one who's doing all the work. And so it essentially is saying, you can have these plans, you can have these ideas of these things that you're wanting to do in your life, how you're wanting to be in relationships and stuff, but to live it and experience it as though God is the one who's creating it, or the divine, the source, the universe, whatever you want to call it, that when we have these expectations of how things are supposed to be, if it isn't in alignment, just like our first Camino was just not in alignment, when it's not in alignment, God will find a way to get you back into alignment, right? And so it's the same within relationships too. If it's not in alignment, you're going to constantly meet these kind of expectations to help you get deeper within yourself so that you can have more of a conscious conversation with your partner or with your loved ones to go, okay, so something's not quite in alignment here. I'm feeling something.
And that's where that trust or acceptance comes in, right?
Yeah.
Is even though that expectation isn't met, don't get mad. Accept it. And trust that there is a bigger plan. There's a reason. It's not the reason that you're a bad person or you're this or you're that. It's just not part of the cards right now. And that's okay.
Yeah. But I would argue with you on the don't get mad. I'm like, it's okay. If you get mad, experience it. Don't become that angry person and don't lash out on others because you've got that anger coming up. Allow yourself to experience it. Feel, okay, I'm mad.
Yeah.
I'm angry, I'm disappointed, I'm sad, I'm heartbroken, whatever you need to do to name it, to feel it, to express it, but don't become it, if that makes sense.
That's a better way of putting it. Yeah, I was thinking more of like the anger bottling up and burying that inside of you versus, sure, the way you put it was much, much, much better. Feel it, transcend it, understand it, accept it, and look for the next opportunity.
Well, and there's so many of us, and I know I went through so much of my life experiencing life this way too, that my expectation was that I should never be angry, right? Which means nobody should piss me off. and I should never be sad, so no one should ever do things that make me sad. And if they do, then it's like, well, why is this even happening, right? It's that whole ego bit of the ego thinks it's the most important thing, right? So it thinks everybody should adhere to how I think life should be. And in an ideal world, wouldn't that be great?
The ego thing also thinks that everybody sees things the same and everything is the same. It's not.
And everybody knows how I'm feeling right now, and they should know that this is the way I like to be treated. And I mean, it is very egotistical of us to feel that way or to live life that way, but most of us do, right? And so if someone makes us angry, then we might, if I had a conversation with someone earlier today and they made me angry, I might come home to him and go, can you imagine? Like, they did this and they did this and now I'm angry and, I'm just really fired up because of this thing that they did. And it's like, well, wait a second. Did they actually mean to do that to you directly just to make you angry? Yeah. And most often they did not, right? When you have those conversations with people and you say, hey, this triggered me, this upset me, did you mean this? And our youngest, he often will kind of verify with us, like, when you sighed there, Mom, are you angry at me? And I'm like, no, I'm not angry. Well, you sighed. Well, it's because I'm just trying to, I don't know, get supper done or something like that, and I just burnt a little piece of the chicken or whatever it might be. But he's always asking these kind of verifying questions of, is this what this means? Is this what this look on your face means? When you say this, is that what you meant? And
is this intentional? Yes.
Yeah.
What is behind this? Yes.
Yes. Because having that clarity sometimes can be enough to just diffuse whatever distortions are happening within the relationship.
Well, and there's so many different things. The communication with expectation is not just a verbal communication, right? There's very much nonverbal cues and stuff, like you were saying. You cough or you breathe heavy or you look a certain way, you roll your eyes. That ties into expectation pieces. Well, I expected, that you were going to be happy or you were going to be sad, whatever the case is, and then you see this facial expression. You're not having that conversation, but you notice something or change in body movement or whatever, and that sometimes gives you that cue up that, oh, there's a distortion here in the expectation.
Yeah. Well, and how often are we actually reading other people's energies, right? And we make it mean something. We assign so much meaning to so much stuff. Like, our brains are honestly overworking all of the time. And depending on what your experiences have been with different facial expressions or different breath movements or even hand gestures. We were watching our live from last week, and it's interesting because I can watch my face and I'm like, oh, that's what I was thinking when you said that. Like, and at one point I'm kind of like hunched over like this and pulled back. And so I can read a lot of what I'm thinking and saying and stuff as I'm watching back the video. But how often do we do that in conversations with people? Even like we can lean in on each other, but if he pulls back, then what am I making it mean if there's now space between us? Or if we're holding on to hands and he lets go of my hand, what am I making that mean? And so it's so important to have those conversations. It always comes back to communication. It always does.
It absolutely does. And again, the only way for you to kind of find peace with the expectations is that communication. It's you want to communicate as much as possible. This is why we and many others say communication is the most important thing. It always comes back to that, because sure, you can have expectations, you can have an argument about expectation, you have an argument about something not meeting expectations, but communicate about that. It's okay to have arguments. People have arguments all the time, or discussions, whatever you want to call it. But talk about it.
Yeah.
So where did this happen? So then you have an awareness. And then the next time, okay, well, now I have an awareness of this. I'm better suited. I have better tools.
Yeah. And another aspect that I want to bring in now that you're talking about that is sometimes we might have a very low expectation of how a person is, but we're trying to get them to kind of raise the bar to a higher expectation. So we had an experience a few years ago with someone in our lives that had a pattern of taking things. Okay. And one of our friends said to us, well, if they have this pattern of taking things, because I was in resistance, right? I was like, I don't want to accept this. I don't think that this is okay and whatnot. So I was in a lot of resistance. And one of our friends said, well, if you know that they're going to steal, then lock things up. And I was like, we shouldn't have to lock things up, right? It's this expectation of this is the way it should look. But then it was accepting, okay, this is where they're at right now. This is what they're doing right now. And so that expectation became, this is what it's going to look like. And these are the steps we have to take because we know this is the way it looks like. And you could use that with alcohol. You could use that with, I'm trying to think of other things.
I think it's basically anything in it. With anything that is really bugging you about somebody, you have to come to a level of acceptance.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're going to continue to expect they're going to change. They're going to change. They're going to change. And you know what? You are going to continue to be upset because you have this expectation that they're going to change. Rather than go, okay, this is how they are. I can try and help them. And I can then put an expectation on myself that I can do this. I can try to help them. But that doesn't mean that they're going to change. I can accept who they are. And we can work towards, making things better.
Yeah.
But that's about as far as you can go.
Yeah. And it's really about creating those kind of safe boundaries around yourself of, just going back to the example that I was giving before. If I know they always take my water glass, well, maybe I'm not going to leave my water glass out there, for them to take it. So you start to adjust your life to go, what is the parameter in which I can have a relationship with this person that's going to be safe for everybody that's involved.
Yeah, and I think what we're saying, it's not, sure, there's a level of decency, right? Like, everybody has an expectation that common things, just like people should be decent, everybody has different mannerisms and whatnot, but, like, there's a level of decency. We're not saying that you should accept anything no matter what. Somebody shows up and they're, swearing and this and that and, very abusive or whatnot. I'm not saying that should be accepted or whatnot. But you have to look into yourself about your expectation of that situation, right?
Yeah.
So if they're showing up that way, do you expect them to be any different? And if you do, then again, it goes back to you're kind of the problem. If you accept that's where they are and you try to change that and talk to them and whatnot, it's beneficial. But what I'm trying to say is don't just settle for any level of whatever. There is a common level of decency that everybody should meet. And that, yes, is an expectation, but I'd say it's a minimal level that,
Yeah. And one thing I've done with people who have met my low bar expectations, that's essentially what I call them. I've got my low bar expectations, I've got my high bar expectations. Low bar expectation, person showed up exactly as I remember them. Awesome. At least they're staying the same.
They showed up. Sometimes that's all you can.
And sometimes there is stability in a person that just stays the same year after year after year after year, and it's going to be the same way. And it might drive you nuts, but at least you can kind of expect that this is who this person is. At least they're true to who they are.
Yeah, and I don't think we're insinuating one way or the other there's a good or a bad on either side. I think it's more of just have that realization of where is that anger coming from, like, or disappointment or whatever, when you have an expectation. When you're getting mad, ask yourself, did I expect X, Y, and Z? Did I communicate X, Y, and Z? And am I the problem and not everything else that's going on? And not problem, just do I have the distortion of what this should look like? right? More so
Yeah.
than.
And I get it. Like, if you're hearing that and you get triggered by that, I get it. Uh,
Sorry.
You're not triggering me right now, but I think it's a really hard pill for people to swallow, that you're your own problem. You know, nobody wants to hear that. We want to place that blame on everybody else or all of the external things that are happening around us. We don't want to think we're the problem. And that's okay. We can accept that. We can go, okay. However, what I've noticed in my own experience is the more I take responsibility for everything that's showing up in my field that I don't like, the easier it is for me to navigate all of this stuff. Where I go, oh, that's interesting. I don't like that. Let me go within myself. Let me find, what do I need to heal within myself around this whole experience so that I can A, understand myself better, and B, let go of what my attachment was to whatever this experience is outside of me.
So you say it so more eloquently than I do. You're the problem.
Well, and that's why I want to
It's
clarify
not the problem.
sometimes, because
It's an invitation, right? It's an invitation to look deeper into yourself.
yeah,
Not so much the problem, just trying to calm everybody that's out there in my own way.
yeah. No, here's the thing: is I think when people hear it from you, it's going to hit for some people where it's like, yes, that's exactly what I need to hear, and for other people, it's like, I'm not the problem. And
Then the ego jumps in. I'm not the problem.
Yeah, well, because no one wants to be the problem.
No,
right?
I get that.
Here's the thing: is even when you have distortions, and even when you've got these expectations, and you've got disappointment that's coming up, or anger that's coming up, or whatever, it's still not the problem, right? It's just you're meeting a part of yourself that has a bit of an edge to it. It's a little bit sharp. So how can we dull that sharp, you know? Do we take some sandpaper to it? Do we just soften it a little bit? Do we just love on it a little bit? Whatever that's going to look like, it's all okay. No matter I used to believe that I was going to get to a point where I didn't have to heal anything anymore. Like, I truly did believe that.
And the universe said that was
Yeah, it was like, the universe was like, I'm infinite. And your healing is going to be infinite. And your positionalities and your perspectives and all of that is going to be infinite, and your expansion is infinite. So it's like a figure 8 to me is like just infinite, ongoing.
It's the infinity symbol, right?
Yeah. And so to me, it's like, it's such an opportunity for me to know more of myself, right? And yeah, it does have an effect on other people, I think.
Oh, absolutely. It has to. We are all energy. We have to,
Yeah.
we have a resonancy about us.
Yeah.
And we transcend that resonancy to others. So,
yeah. And the more you can get clear on yourself and have that kind of self-understanding of, oh, this triggers me, this upsets me, this makes me angry. And even the more you can just be aware of, oh, I'm getting triggered right now. You can actually start to be with your triggers in real time without having to step into like a healing space or a solitude space or anything. You can hold it all for yourself, all at the same time. When you can do that, then you can actually start communicating even more clearly. This is exactly what's going on. It's no longer like a covered blanket of, I'm angry, you did this and I'm angry, because that doesn't really do anything. It can be as simple as, when you said this one sentence and you added a little bit of a hike there, it reminded me of this one time when I was a child and my mom also added a hike on a sentence that was very similar, and it terrified me. So I kind of retreated, and then I felt pissed off that you did this one thing that triggered this emotion in me. That brings a lot more information to him to go, oh, that's what happened, right? Because otherwise you might be going, what did I do wrong? You know?
and you bring up a good point about triggers, and that's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but it is kind of that warning system. If you're being triggered, usually that's a sign that there's some sort of expectation that's not being fulfilled or met, or not, I'm being triggered. Doesn't mean I'm into full out blow up mode, but there's something that I'm going to move away from this or whatever. I don't want to talk about this. There's usually something more to that. So,
yeah, it's an opportunity to just dig deeper.
I mean, you can walk away as simple as that. And then there's plenty of people that say, oh, this is triggering me, I'm not going to talk about this. And by all means, everybody's journey is different. Heal, don't heal. you know, we had this conversation just prior to this, and I said, you know, I think we have to be accepting that people are either wanting to do something or they don't, and they either want to heal or they don't want to heal, and that is okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think let's all heal. Like that's kind of my point of view on it, but
well, I mean, I don't disagree, but I'm just saying accepting people where they are.
Yeah.
And people that say, "Oh no, I'm fine the way I am," and this and that, you could push that a little bit to, you know, put some of that healing in there. Like people, I think genuinely people just want to be better, and they want everybody to feel accepted, and they want everybody to feel loved. And I don't think people don't ever just want to be the same as they always are. But when you say the word, "Oh, you need to heal," it invokes some reactions in different people, and when they hear
well, and I think a lot of people will hear that and they start to automatically think there's something wrong with them.
I'm broken.
You know, and to me, healing is not about fixing something because you're already whole. You're a person, you're a human, you've got a consciousness, you've got a soul. You're already whole. But if you're going through life and you're feeling very disgruntled by life and you're feeling, you know, all kinds of emotions that you're like, I don't like the way I'm feeling, that to me is that opportunity to heal, right? Like if you don't like it, let's do something about it, you know?
Yeah, and it's, you know, if you see something broken around your house, you're going to fix it or you're going to replace it. And so it's the same. If you see these things within you,
yeah,
why not fix it, heal it, replace it,
yeah,
or remove it?
And I'm just actually going to bring that right back to expectations, because sometimes we can have an expectation around healing and what healing is going to do for us, right? Like if I heal enough, it's going to bring me the perfect partnership. If I heal enough, it's going to bring me the dream trip. If I heal enough, it's going to bring me this job opportunity or whatever it might be. We think that what we receive is directly connected to that healing. That's not necessarily true. And I have had people that have said to me, "Oh, so, you know, you do psychic work or you help guide people or whatever, so your life must be perfect." No, I think actually because I do this work that my life has had a lot more nuance and a lot more influence that has been like, what the hell is going on here? Because that's part of my life purpose, is to understand more of life. So it's, with healing, it doesn't mean life is going to get just magically great. If you can get yourself to a point where life can show up as life shows up, and you can witness it and you can feel the emotions without becoming those emotions, then life does get easier. And it's not because the external stuff is changing, it's because the way you're responding to it is starting to change.
That's right. You're doing it from within.
Yeah.
Which then it will transcend, and collectively I believe that does spread, and
Absolutely.
people do change as a whole, as a community, as what I speak.
Yeah. Well, and I just think it's a slower change. Like,
well, it is.
Oh, excuse me.
But I think, you know, it all depends on your group size and what that impact is and what your change you're looking to invoke. But
yeah. Well, I mean, to me, it's like if I come home and I'm like in a really super positive mood and I'm very excited, but you've had a really, really hard day, right? For you to meet me at my energy, it's going to take a lot for you to get up to the energy that I'm in. If you're in a really bad mood and I'm kind of in an okay mood, and then maybe you snap at me or give me a look or whatever, it is so much quicker for me to be able to like meet you at that level. Do you know what I mean?
Well, and so this comes back to expectations, right? That everybody should rise to the same level as I am. Where the ego comes in and goes, I'm
so happy.
I'm happy. You need to be happy.
Yes.
I'm sad. I'm going to drag you down. And I need. But then we have this expectation that we should just, one should rise or lower or wherever, instead of going, okay, you know, I can show compassion for where you're at.
Yeah.
Sorry you had a hard day, or hey, yeah, you're having a great day. You're super positive and running around like crazy. I'm tired and this is just where I'm at. Yeah. And it goes back to communication as well, right? It's, don't expect that when you meet somebody that your energies are gonna match. Sure, they do sometimes, but sometimes, you know, that's not the case.
We all have different energy systems that are running through us, so yeah.
It again goes back to accepting what that is, accepting where you're at, accepting where that person's at, and accepting, you can't have no expectations, but you can accept that everybody does have expectations. You can have an awareness of what those are, and you can have an awareness of your own expectations, which just makes things a little bit easier to take. And it does. I mean, it'll just settle things out a little bit, and there'll be less anger or
resistance to how things are showing up.
Or it creates less positionalities. There's just a whole lot of benefits to trying to understand where those expectations come and accept.
Yeah. And another thing that I want to bring up, and it was an experience that we got to have, I want to say, not this past March, the March before. We had gone to a monk conversation, and the monk was talking about having nonviolent communication and nonviolent personalities, I guess.
Yeah.
And as we were leaving, one of the things the monk had said, and because I've not been a very violent person throughout my life. However, when it comes to like my inner voice can be very critical and very violent towards me and towards the way my body looks and whatever. And so as we were leaving, I was thinking about this, like, oh, I've always prided myself on being nonviolent, but look at how violent I've been within myself. So that's also not actually any better. And then he was saying that he had been nonviolent. He was like, I don't think we're very violent. And I had a thought of, well, I've seen you be aggressive in the past, so I don't think you're very self-aware right now, is kind of what my thought was. So anyways, we go home, we are all in bed, whatever, and our son comes downstairs and he's like, someone just broke into the house. And we run upstairs, well, I guess we get dressed quickly, we run upstairs, and sure enough, someone had broken the front window in our door and had then taken off. We have security cameras, so we were able to see what they had done. And then I'm sitting there, I guess I called the cops, and we had them come, and our son was very amped up because he brought his guitar down to bash the guy with the guitar, and he never did, but he was trying to protect his family. And then as we're waiting, was it as we were waiting on the cop to come, or was it after the cop came? I don't remember any either. But what ended up happening was John just stayed completely calm the whole time. And then he went out to his man cave, his shed, and he got a piece of plexiglass and he cut it to the size of the window and he started replacing it, and he was just calm, and he was providing this kind of safety and asking myself and my son, are you guys okay? And in that moment, I was like, oh my God. I have been thinking of him in these kind of past versions, these expectations of how I knew him to once be, ever many moons ago. And I wasn't actually allowing him to show up as he was in that moment. And so in that moment, a light bulb kind of switched for me where I was able to see no, he's absolutely self-aware right now. He's not violent. He's not being aggressive. He's not
running down the street.
Yeah, I guess that's what I thought I was going to have to do, is hold you back from running down the street to find the guy to beat him up or whatever. And so sometimes in those expectations, we've kind of built this idea of this character that a person is based on their past behavior, right? And we've been together for 18 and a half years. So we've been with each other a very long time. We've watched each other grow up, essentially. And in that, there's been many different characters that we've had to, let go of, and also meet for the very first time, or kind of introduced to each other for the very first time. And so especially if you're someone that's in a long-term relationship with someone, I would encourage you to look at what expectations do you hold on your partner about versions of them that they've been in the past. Maybe you're someone who always says, well, they just won't talk to me, but you actually stopped talking to them 10 years ago because they won't talk to you. So you're not actually having heartfelt conversations or anything like that. Or perhaps, well, they'll never help me around the house because I asked them once 20 years ago to help me and they didn't help then, so I haven't asked them since. okay, you know, we have to give people opportunity to show us that they've changed.
And what I was just going to say is just as good things will transcend, so will bad things. So, you know, the example is a great example is because they used you had an expectation of what you thought was going to happen, who you thought I was at that moment. So you kind of put limits on a person, right?
Yeah.
And that may sound bad, but I mean, would you want me to put a limit on you to say you can only be this in this box?
No,
this is who you are, and that
not.
is it. And I wouldn't want that either. So, but we're creating that in our heads, right? When we're saying, "Oh, this is who you are, and this is how you've always been," and so you're not really allowing that growth, which then doesn't allow them to grow because you've limited them in your mind.
Yeah.
Which it will transcend. I'm sure that, like, I will still grow and whatnot, but there's a piece that will be stunted because it's put out there that no, this is who you are, and you got to stay this person.
Yeah. Yeah. And it brings me back. I feel like we had this conversation just a few weeks ago, but brings me back to when I was a kid. We had an aquarium, and the aquarium was, I don't know, like 3 feet. That's not quite 3 feet, but anyways, 3 feet aquarium. And we had this little shark in the aquarium, and the shark started to outgrow the aquarium. So what he would do is swim back and forth, and he'd bang his head on the glass of the aquarium, back and forth, and he started going from gray to white, and eventually he died. And I just learned, I guess, yeah, because I think we watched a video on this,
Just had a conversation
that for aquariums, even if you take the glass out of an aquarium, say you have like a double-sided aquarium with a piece of glass in the center, the shark will only swim so far until even if you take that glass out, it will still stop where the glass once was, because it thinks I can't grow any further than this. So as you're talking about, you know, these kind of limitations that we put on people, sometimes we're kind of like that shark in a glass container, that perhaps it wasn't our partner that put this limitation on us, but perhaps it was someone else in our life that put this limitation on us, or that we've placed on ourselves, and we go, I can't outgrow this tank, but you can, right? That glass wall is just an illusion.
Yeah, and it goes. We also talked, I think, on a previous call about the fleas in the glass, and once you remove the glass, and in fact, it transcended through the generations of fleas. So they had a bunch of fleas, and none of them would move out of that zone that they were in because that's.
Yeah, they just stick in the same pattern, like they've been flying like this, and even when you remove that cage on them, they just keep flying like this. And I think a lot of us are continuing to do this in our relationships within family dynamics and everything, where it's like, this is just the way the family is, and we just keep on doing it the same way the family has been doing it, even though all of us have been in resistance to it. Yeah. But we're just going to keep on keeping on. Just
keep following the same pattern.
Yeah.
Running against the wall.
Yeah. And I mean, it's tricky, especially like knowing that the fleas will actually just stay in that pattern and not even realize that the container is gone. How often for all of us do we still think that container is not gone? And it's even been like scientifically proven that our brains will react to danger now, like it senses danger, as though there's a tiger hiding behind every single bush. Every time the nervous system's like, what's that? Our brain's going, it's a tiger behind the bush. Well, most of us don't have tigers in our neighborhoods, you know, and yet we still respond in that same way. So,
system,
and I guess that's the expectation of the nervous system. It's like, it is big danger, you know. Meanwhile, it's like, I'm afraid to call this person. You know, the brain's going, it's a tiger. No, it's not. Yeah. Anyways, I think it is our big question time.
It is.
So do you want to, I guess you can't reach in the jar, can you? His hands are too big for the jar.
Yes.
I've got tiny hands. Alrighty. So what question's going to align with expectations tonight?
Should be interesting. The last couple have been good, so.
Yep, we'll see. Have an expectation. All right, what is more important, truth or kindness?
Truth. I think truth will bring kindness, but
Okay.
Ultimately, I think truth is more important than kindness. I do. I could not that kindness isn't important. And how does that relate to expectations? That's pretty simple. Being true about what your expectation is important.
Yeah.
Right? Knowing what your expectation is important. Being true to yourself and understanding what your expectations are of your partner or of your job, of your life or whatever, I think is more important than the kindness. But
Awesome.
I'm willing to debate it.
No, I agree that truth is important. I just want to say truth with kindness is the most important. That's kind of where I know it says truth or kindness, but here's the thing. A lot of people, and I've done this myself too, where it's like, it's my truth that I see you as being a complete freaking jerk right now, right?
Truth in kindness.
Well, it's truth with kindness, where truth with kindness to me would be more like, okay, so I had this thing that came up inside of me as you were talking, and it made me feel really isolated, or it made me feel very afraid. And I just wanted to share that with you because I'm not sure that's how you wanted me to feel in that interaction. And so it's like, it's my truth with kindness.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of times people are going, oh, I need to speak my truth. I'm going to open up my throat chakra and I'm going to tell them exactly what I think. And then what we're actually doing is destroying people and going, it's healing because I'm speaking my truth. And I have an issue.
Yeah, I
with
agree.
that.
It's tact, right? It's nothing wrong with speaking the truth. Do it in a constructive way. Do it at a constructive time.
Yeah.
Do it, so I understand what you're saying. See, there's my expectation that people should just do things at the right time. Or, just be kind about when you're speaking your truth, that you're aware that you're speaking your truth doesn't mean it's an attack on somebody else.
And I think because a lot of times people think the truth is that very first story that comes up in the mind, right? Like, this person's a jerk. So that's the truth. And it's like, well, let's dig deeper. That goes back into those expectations. Let's dig deeper into, why is this person a jerk? What am I really making this mean? What stories have I attached to this? What limitations am I holding on to and stuff? And once you get down to kind of like the nitty gritty of it all and you've got yourself at a neutral place, now you can speak your truth on it.
Yeah.
Like, because I know there's been plenty of times where I've thought I'm speaking my truth. I told them off. I was speaking my
ego
truth.
was right there riding shotgun with me and telling me I was right.
It's the truth of my anger, but is that the only truth that I have? Because ultimately there's so many different layers to all of us that I think getting down to the absolute nugget is, I'm sure you've seen the meme on Facebook and stuff too, where it's like, it's two adults that are walking away from each other, but inside of them there's like two inner children that are like trying to reach out to each other. And ultimately it's like, well, what is that truth, that inner child within? What is that inner child looking for? And that's the truth that needs to be spoken. Now, have I been perfect at that? Absolutely not. But I have the idea of it. I have the awareness of it. That's the truth that I need to get to.
I don't have an expectation that you're going to be perfect.
No. But I mean, I have a high expectation of myself when I speak these things to you guys to say, hey, this is what you can do. I have that high expectation on myself of, this is what I need to reach for. And if I'm not reaching for it, if I am reacting, then I really need to sit and kind of reflect on that and look at what kind of transpired there that made everything kind of go out of control for me.
I have zero expectations on me. But my intention is good. My intention is just to try and help people. And, do I expect that I'm going to show up perfect? I'm going to look the way I'm supposed to look, or I'm going to do the things that... No, because I'm not going to. I know I'm not. But I do know that I just want to help people, and my intention is to just make the world a better place and calm.
Yeah.
It's not an expectation, it's just my intention.
Fair enough.
Anything I can do to help that along, why not?
Yeah.
What does it hurt?
Yes. Alrighty, thank you everyone who has joined us here tonight and everybody who will be watching the replay. We will be back next Sunday night, I believe, talking about acceptance.
Yes, we're going to talk about acceptance.
Yes.
It kind of goes with
Expectations.
But more, I think we were talking in acceptance of just overall acceptance, right?
Yeah.
Not just about expectations, but acceptance is another big one for relationships, and yeah, it'll be a good show, so you better tune in.
Yes. As always, if you guys have any questions, you can either pop them into the conversation below, or you can email us at info@compassionwithcatherine.com, or message us here on Facebook at Catherine Graham, Compassion with Catherine. So,
Yes.
enjoy your night. We are off for a date now. So, have a great night, everyone.
Take care, folks.